Okay, so today we're diving deep into a verse you probably heard, even if you're not like a Bible scholar or anything. It's Psalm 23.5.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some really interesting research on it. And I got to say, I'm pretty curious myself to find out, like, what makes these words so powerful, so enduring.
Yeah.
It's, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. It's beautiful, but also kind of, I don't know, a bit puzzling, maybe.
It definitely is a verse, yeah, that makes you think, makes you want to go a little deeper. What really gets me is how it brings together this like incredible feeling of abundance, of celebration even. But it's right there with like this real acknowledgement that things can be rough.
Yeah?
It doesn't pretend like everything's perfect, It's like it knows that life has hard parts, that there will be enemies, but it puts all that difficulty, all that hardship right alongside God's like ridiculous generosity.
I love that. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about, like you said, finding that security and even joy, like in spite of the hard stuff.
Right.
Okay, so let's just start right at the beginning. With that image of the table prepared, it's such a warm, inviting image. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes you think about, the kind of hospitality that goes way beyond just doing the bare minimum, right? Like, think about it. In ancient cultures, being invited to a feast, especially if you were a guest of honor, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
It meant a bond of trust, a promise of protection, and it meant there was going to be more than enough food, plenty to go around.
So it's not just about, like, having food on the table, right? It's about being welcomed, being cherished, even elevated, maybe.
Yes, exactly. And here's something even more fascinating. When you think about feasting back then, historically, it wasn't just about eating. It was about so much more. It was about, like, strengthening those alliances, building community, even showing off your power a bit and your generosity.
Yeah.
So when Psalm 23.5 talks about a table prepared, it's implying that we as believers were brought into this circle of God's favor, his strength, his unwavering support.
That makes me think about those times in my life when I felt the most supported, the most loved. And it really wasn't about material things, you know what I mean? It was that sense of belonging, of being seen and cared for. That's what really mattered.
Absolutely. And that leads us right into what I think is maybe the most interesting part of this whole verse, that whole in the presence of my enemies part.
Oh, yeah. It kind of throws you off a little, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's like, wait, who invites their enemies to dinner? It seems so counterintuitive, especially when you've got all this abundance, all this celebration going on.
And yet it's crucial to what the verse is really saying, because it's telling us that even when you're surrounded by opposition, by people who might actually want to hurt you, God's care, it doesn't go away. He's not just providing for you when everything's easy. He's providing for you when things are tough, when you're in the middle of a battle.
I can see how that would be really empowering, almost defiant even. It's like saying, yeah, there are challenges, but I'm focused on the feast, on the blessings, because that's where my real strength comes from. It totally changes how you see things.
Exactly. It's about perspective. And then we come to those sensory details, the anointing with oil, the cup overflowing, that imagery. So rich. So much there.
I always found those lines really comforting, but I gotta admit, I've always wondered about the deeper meaning behind it all.
Well, the anointing with oil, that had such deep cultural and spiritual meaning. It symbolized being set apart, consecrated for something special, even healing and protection. Back in the Old Testament, kings and priests, they were anointed with oil as a sign of God's blessing, his favor. So in this verse, it's like God is like personally giving those blessings to the believer.
That's interesting because that anointing ties back to that feeling of being cherished, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
But now it's got this added layer of strength to it, like being equipped,
Yeah.
Being ready for whatever comes your way.
Exactly. And then that overflowing cup, it's not just about having enough. It's about God's provision being so abundant, it spills over. It goes beyond our expectations, beyond just what we need in the moment.
So it's not just about like material wealth.
Not at all. Think about it this way. What really fills your cup? What gives you that feeling of joy, of peace, of fulfillment even? Maybe it's your relationships or your creative side. Maybe it's that connection you feel with nature. That's where you might be experiencing this overflow in your own life.
Wow, I love that. It's a good reminder that God's blessings, they come in all shapes and sizes, often when we least expect them to. So if I can try to sum up what we've talked about here, it seems like Psalm 23.5 It's really a message of resilience,
Mm.
of holding on to your faith even when things are tough. It's about finding comfort and security in God's love and provision, even when you're surrounded by challenges.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's this reminder that we are never really alone. Even in those dark times, there's a feast waiting for us, a cup overflowing with blessings, just waiting to be discovered.
And for those of you listening, I want you to think about this. What would be on your own metaphorical table? What feeds your soul? Where do you see that overflow in your life? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Psalm 23.5. It's been amazing.
It really has.